Have you ever stopped to think about why, even though you earn more than you did a few years ago, the feeling of always being behind financially never goes away? That unsettling feeling that the money comes in, but never stays. That you work harder, try harder, but still have the same silent anxiety every time you look at your bank account, credit card, or calendar. If this has ever crossed your mind, stay with me until the end, because what you're about to discover might surprise you. Perhaps you did everything right. You studied, got a better job, started earning a little more, adjusted your standard of living. Even so, the feeling of poverty remains, not necessarily as an extreme lack of money, but as a constant tightness in your chest, a feeling that any unforeseen event could disrupt everything. Have you ever experienced this? This is one of the most common experiences in personal finance, especially when we talk about financial mindset, and almost no one explains it clearly. The problem is that most of the time we associate feeling poor solely with income. If I earn more, it will pass. If I change jobs, things will improve. If I close that deal, I'll finally breathe a sigh of relief. But time passes, income rises, and the feeling doesn't keep up. Frustration arises. Comparison arises. That silent question that nobody likes to admit arises. Why does it seem like everyone else is moving forward and I'm always playing catch-up? What you'll realize throughout this video is that this feeling doesn't stem solely from the numbers but from how you relate to money in your daily life. While many people believe the problem lies in earning too little, something deeper is happening. A constant feeling of financial stagnation. It's as if you're always trying to reach a point you never arrive at. The bills are paid, but peace of mind doesn't come. The salary arrives, but it already has a specific purpose. And deep down, there's the impression that you're working to keep everything afloat, not to build something real. This generates anxiety, mental fatigue, and a heavy emotional relationship with money. It is precisely at this point that the thought of Warren Buffett is starting to attract attention, not because he's a billionaire, but because the way he views money is completely different from most people. While many focus on consumption, status, or quick fixes, he has always talked about time, behavior, and the silent decisions that shape the future. And here's the question that changes everything. What if the problem isn't how much you earn, but how you think about money? Stay with me until the end of this journey, because understanding this difference can explain why you still feel poor even when doing everything right. And from here, we begin to look at this discomfort head-on, with more clarity, to understand where it really comes from and why it keeps so many people trapped without realizing it. And perhaps that's exactly why talking about it out loud is so important, because this feeling of always being behind even when trying hard isn't unique to everyone. It's more common than it seems, but almost no one talks about it. Each person carries this weight in silence, thinking the problem is a lack of discipline, luck, or ability. But when we start to name what we feel, something changes. If this topic resonates with you, leave a comment below about what has touched you the most so far. You don't need to write beautifully or explain too much. Sometimes just saying, "I identified with this," helps more than you imagine. And when you comment, it's not just about you. Other people watching, going through the same silent financial anxiety, read it and realize they're not alone. This creates a kind of connection that doesn't show up in the numbers but makes all the difference. That's how this channel grows. Not by pushing magic formulas, but by opening space for real conversations about money, financial mindset, and that constant feeling of being behind that so many people experience. Your participation here is what makes this content reach more people who also need to hear this now. If at any point during this video you felt that tightness in your chest, that uncomfortable identification, consider liking the video, not as a favor, but as a signal to the algorithm that this type of reflection needs to continue circulating. The further this content reaches, the more people begin to question automatic decisions that keep everyone in the same place. And if you feel this kind of conversation is missing, subscribing to the channel is almost a commitment to yourself. It's a way of saying, I want to better understand my relationship with money, not just earn more, but think differently. The next videos continue exactly along these lines, delving into behaviors, choices, and invisible patterns that shape your financial life without you realizing it. So stick around, because from now on we'll start looking more clearly at what really keeps this feeling of poverty alive, even when income increases. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject, because there's an invisible mistake that most people repeat without realizing it. And it explains very well why so many people work hard, strive, increase their income, and still feel financially trapped. This mistake doesn't appear in spreadsheets, it's not explicit in monthly bills, and it's almost never discussed in conversations about money. It lives in small decisions, in choices considered normal, in automatic attitudes that seem harmless, but which accumulate a silent impact over time. Most people make financial decisions looking only at the present, immediate comfort, momentary relief, the feeling of reward after a difficult period. It's not because they are irresponsible, but because no one taught them to think of money as a timeline. The focus is on the current month, the next bill, the next permitted pleasure, and when this becomes the pattern, the future begins to be consumed little by little without making a sound. The problem is not buying something specific or spending at a particular time, but repeating choices without considering their accumulated effect. These normal decisions create a dangerous illusion of control. The person feels they are in charge because they pay everything on time, maintain their standard of living, and don't let anything fall behind. But behind this, there is no margin. There is no room to breathe. Any unforeseen event becomes a threat. Any change generates fear. That's where emotional poverty is born. It's not the absence of money itself, but the absence of slack, of time, of tranquility to make decisions without pressure. Financial life is always on the edge, and living on the edge is more exhausting than it seems. When you look at this scenario from the outside, you realize it's not just about numbers, but about mindset, about how decisions are made without deep reflection, about how the system rewards those who consume quickly and punishes those who think long-term. This is a hidden truth that almost no one likes to face, because it demands responsibility and a change in behavior. It requires understanding that many financial problems don't arise from big mistakes, but from small choices repeated over years. It is precisely at this point that the thought of Warren Buffett, he begins to stand out clearly, not because he never makes mistakes, but because his focus has always been on time, not urgency. While most people make decisions to alleviate the present, he makes decisions to protect the future. While many seek an immediate sense of progress, he prioritizes margin, patience, and accumulated impact. And this difference in mindset completely changes a person's financial journey. When you understand this, things start to fall into place. The feeling of constantly being behind stops seeming like bad luck and begins to make sense within a larger logic. It's not that you're standing still, it's that perhaps you're walking looking only at your feet without perceiving the entire path. This realization doesn't solve everything at once, but it opens up space for transformation. It opens up space for more conscious decisions, less automatic ones, more aligned with what you truly want to build over time. Before we delve further into this reflection, I want to know if this resonates with you. If this idea of short-term decisions and lack of leeway makes sense, comment below. That makes sense to me. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject because understanding how Warren Buffett thinking about money is one of those revelations that changes the way you view every financial decision, even the simplest ones. We're not talking about secret formulas or complex strategies, but about a change in mindset that completely transforms your relationship with the future. For Buffett, money was never about showing off, haste, or comparison. It was always about freedom. Freedom of time, of choice, of not having to accept just anything to maintain a standard that imprisons. While most people think of money as something to solve present problems, Buffett sees it as a tool to protect tomorrow. This difference seems subtle, but its impact over the years is enormous. Thinking short-term brings immediate relief, quick comfort, that feeling of, I deserve this now. Thinking long-term requires patience. It requires saying no to some rewards today, but in return it builds something much rarer, peace of mind. This is where a true mindset transformation begins. Buffett has always made it clear that the biggest financial mistake is not losing money, but losing freedom. Decisions that compromise the future, even seemingly small ones, have an invisible cost. A financial commitment that robs you of your flexibility. A fixed expense that seems manageable now, but repeats itself month after month, year after year. Little by little, these choices close doors. And when you realize it, you're working not to evolve, but to sustain old decisions. This is the behind-the-scenes reality of financial life that almost no one shows. The focus was never on earning more at any cost. but on avoiding becoming trapped in structures that demand ever-increasing effort just to stay in the same place. Buffett understands that real wealth isn't about how much you can spend, but about how much control you maintain over your time and your decisions. This vision changes everything because it removes money from the center of anxiety and places it at the center of strategy. He doesn't chase status, he chases margin. Margin to make mistakes, to wait, to choose calmly. A simple example helps to illustrate this clearly. Imagine two seemingly small decisions: making a long-term financial commitment to raise your standard of living now, or maintaining a slightly simpler life to preserve flexibility. In the first case, the impact isn't immediate, but it takes its toll in the form of constant pressure. In the second, the benefit isn't immediate either, but it grows silently over time. Years later, the difference between these two choices is enormous, not only in the money accumulated, but in the quality of the possible decisions. This is a hidden truth that rarely comes up in conversations about financial success. Most people are too busy trying to appear successful to realize they are trading freedom for appearances. Buffett never played that game. He understands that the true power of money lies in the cumulative effect of conscious decisions, made with patience and a long-term vision. This journey is neither quick nor flashy, but it is profoundly solid. When you start looking at money from this perspective, something changes internally. Anxiety decreases, comparison loses its power, and decisions become more intentional. Not because you started earning more, but because you started thinking differently. And it is precisely this difference in thinking that explains why some people progress consistently while others feel stuck, even when they try so hard. If this way of looking at money has given you any new insights, leave a comment below. I'm on this journey too. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject, because understanding why this way of thinking always leaves the majority behind is uncomfortable, but necessary. There's a silent cycle that repeats itself in many people's lives, and is almost never questioned. Income rises, the standard of living rises along with it, and the feeling of poverty remains exactly the same. The number changes, the objects change, the scenery changes, but the inner tightness remains. It's like running on a treadmill that seems like progress but leads nowhere. This cycle creates a dangerous illusion of progress. People look back and think, today I earn more than before, so I'm better off. But in practice, they remain without margin, without peace of mind, without room to make mistakes or choose calmly. Everything becomes more expensive, more complex, more burdensome. Increased income doesn't bring freedom, it brings new obligations. And when this repeats for years, the emotional impact is profound. Exhaustion, frustration, and that constant feeling that something never quite comes together arise. Many people try to solve this by working more hours, more projects, more effort. But working more doesn't solve a mindset problem. On the contrary, it often only accelerates the cycle. Money comes in and goes out at the same speed because decisions continue to be made automatically. There is no clear strategy, only reaction. Reaction to other people's lifestyles, to social pressure, to immediate rewards. This is one of the least talked about behind-the-scenes aspects of modern financial life. The real enemy isn't low wages or lack of opportunities. The real enemy is automatic choices made without awareness of their impact. Over time, small decisions repeated every month that steal flexibility, energy, and long-term vision. It's accepting financial commitments without thinking about the weight they will have in 5 or 10 years. It's normalizing living on the edge and calling that adult life. That's where the hidden truth lies that almost no one likes to face. When you compare this behavior to the mindset of someone like Warren Buffett, the difference is striking. While most people use each increase in income to immediately raise their standard of living, he always used it as a way to increase profit margins and control. While many seek quick comfort, he protects the future. This difference in decisions, repeated over time, creates completely opposite journeys. It's not about above-average intelligence, it's about above-average awareness. The most dangerous thing of all is that this cycle seems normal. Everyone does it. Everyone accepts it. Everyone justifies it. And that's precisely why it perpetuates itself. The feeling of poverty doesn't come from a lack of money, but from a lack of strategy, from the absence of intentional choices, from living by responding to the present, without realizing the accumulated impact of these decisions throughout the journey. When you begin to see this clearly, something changes inside. Not because you found an immediate solution, but because you began to identify the pattern that keeps you stuck. And this perception opens up space for different, more conscious, less automatic decisions. It is at this point that reflection begins to become deeper and more transformative. If this part made you reflect on this silent cycle, comment below. That makes sense to me. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject, because there's a turning point that almost no one realizes. It's possible to stop feeling poor even before becoming rich. And this has nothing to do with magic numbers, higher salaries, or radical life changes, but with a silent transformation in the way you think. When your mindset changes, your decisions change along with it. And when your decisions change, the impact begins to appear in an almost invisible but consistent way. Most people believe that the feeling of wealth only comes when you have a lot of money left over. But in practice, that feeling begins when you create space. Mental space, financial space, space to make decisions without pressure. Wealth doesn't come from status, it comes from freedom. From the moment you stop living on the edge and start having room to choose. It's at this point that anxiety decreases, even if your bank account isn't exactly where you'd like it to be yet. Thinking this way requires breaking some deeply ingrained patterns. It requires questioning decisions that everyone treats as normal. It requires realizing that many choices made to look good today silently sabotage the future. Creating space means reducing commitments that drain energy, time, and money. It means giving up certain immediate rewards in exchange for peace of mind later on. This exchange is almost never glamorous, but it is extremely powerful. When you observe the mindset of Warren Buffett, it's clear that the focus was never on accelerating gains, but rather on eliminating pitfalls. He always understood that the greatest financial risk is not earning less in a year, but putting yourself in situations that rob you of your freedom over time. Thinking like Buffett, in this sense, means stopping, sabotaging your own future with automatic decisions. It's about exchanging urgency for intention, appearance for structure, haste for clarity. This practical change starts small. It begins when you start observing your own habits without judgment, but with honesty. When you begin to ask yourself if each decision brings you closer to or further away from the tranquility you desire. Gradually, this creates a different journey. Not because everything becomes easy, but because everything starts to make more sense. Money ceases to be just a source of stress and becomes a tool for building. And the more this awareness grows, the more you realize that true wealth isn't about impressing, but about sustaining choices over time. It's about having the strength to say no. It's about not depending on constant increases to feel secure. This is a revelation that completely changes how you view your own financial journey and prepares the ground for understanding habits, decisions, and invisible traps that still go unnoticed in everyday life. If this idea of creating space before creating status resonated with you, comment below. I'm on this journey too. If you've made it this far, it's because this conversation touched on something real inside you. And when content manages to provoke this kind of reflection, it makes sense to continue walking this path together. Subscribing to the channel is simply a way of saying that this type of approach, deeper, more honest, without magic formulas, is worth making part of your routine. The next videos follow exactly this line, exploring decisions, habits, and invisible traps that almost no one explains in this way. If this message was for you, leave a comment writing, "This message was for me." I interpret this as a silent sign from someone willing to think differently and break out of autopilot. And if at any point you felt a connection to what was said here, liking the video is a simple way to strengthen this type of content and keep this conversation alive. There's a video over here that perfectly complements this topic and delves even deeper into this mindset shift. Click there and continue watching.